me, Dr. Potter. I want to really thank you also for your support and your interest in this program. So many people to think of, because you don't do this on your own.
I think we're going to go around.
I think we're going to go that way, Patrick. Yeah.
Go around this way.
All right. So I get my phone back. Start looking at some of the questions again.
Yeah. Let's see if we have any questions or comments.
Up there we go. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see. Some really kind comments. I see Ralph asking about Clarence Pack. Ralph, sorry about that. I actually sent an email back and just didn't hear from you before I started, but we can definitely get that done. And so I'll be in touch with you and make sure we get the pedal for the shingle for Ralph Peck. Ralph Peters, again, someone who's so dedicated to keeping this memory alive. Check out Ralph's website, everything Ralph does with the Best Defense Foundation, bringing veterans back, those last veterans. So Ralph, thank you, and I'll definitely follow up. Thank you, Thomas, for those kind words. It's great to get those wonderful comments from our colleagues as well, Patrick. Great guide community in Normandy, and so happy I'm be able to work with many of them on the Next Gen Normandy program. To my knowledge, this would be one of the only educational programs where you will actually getting tours from 12 Normandy battlefield guides who've been doing this for at least 10-15 years, who are all live here, but who are from 8 different countries. Think about getting a tour from Ava, or who's a wonderful German battlefield guide, the perspective on the German side. We have the British colleagues like Nigel and Dale and Mike, our Dutch reenactment expert. So it's a great program with different angles, different perspectives. So
we mentioned Nigel there. We should also say that today you have kindly donated some books by Nigel Stewart, the Normandy Military Cemeteries.
Yeah, Nigel, longtime friend. He's been at it for longer than I have as a guide. He gives a lot of D-Day presentations on cruise ships as well, and he's an artist. And so check out Ghost Soldiers, or not Ghost Soldiers, Normandy Ghosts, I apologize. His latest book, which superposes images from 1944 to today. Really great book with my other good friend Sean. But so Nigel wrote a book and beautiful pictures of the Normandy war cemeteries. And so 3 of these will be offered to people who are watching today, and I think we're going to do that during the Zoom platoon, right, Patrick?
Absolutely. And if you've contributed to the Next Gen Normandy call for funding on the GoFundMe page, if you paid for a donation ticket for today's event, then you will be entered for the prize draw.
Sounds great. Looking forward to handing those out. They're definitely worth it.
So that's at 6:30 this evening Paris time, which I guess 18 less 6, so that's 12:30 on the east coast of the United States.
All right. I hope you got that right, Patrick, because I kind of told people it was 1:30, so my apologies if I got the time wrong. But
I think we have 6 hours from Eastern time to Paris time.
Right.
So maybe we'll need to send an email out to remind people.
Yes, yeah. Grab a sandwich, have a beer, and we'll do the Zoom platoon over lunch, right? if you're on the East Coast, I know some people are watching from many other places, and maybe they're even getting up real early for us. Who knows, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Patrick, I have another interesting comment from Melissa, who says that it's never occurred to me before I visited that it is a regular beach to the local residents. They were sunbathing and playing soccer on. So the idea of having people just show up there, and some of them being locals, it's that's
absolutely. Melissa, the beach is 4 miles long, and it's a great place for families to come and kids to play. They play ball, they build sandcastles, they do all the kind of stuff that normal people do on beaches everywhere in the world. Isn't that right, Geert? It's not an exclusion zone.
Well, and that's kind of what happened here before the war as well. Since the early 1900s, the only time people couldn't come out here was during the occupation, right? It was kind of off limits. So in many ways things have gone back to normal, but people cannot come here and not realize what happened, because of the multiple memorials, because if you walk down to the Braves and see that sign, it really, you know, immediately tells you what happened here. And of course the American Cemetery that we'll refer to later on up on the bluff. But yeah, I mean, you know, different comments often I hear as well about that. And so yeah, it's open to debate, but I think the fact that this beach is being used as it was used prior to the occupation just says a lot about why these guys came
Absolutely.
here.
I think if you could go back in time and ask the guys that were fighting to liberate Europe on this beach 78 years ago whether they thought it'd be a good idea to close it to kids who wanted to play ball and build sandcastles after they'd gone, I don't think they would have been in agreement, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could come up with a few different links from documentaries and interviews with veterans where they refer to that, you know, just seeing kids play on the beach, or even from relatives, you know, who lost their fathers or grandfathers here. It's very moving. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, just look at the sheer size, the sheer scale of this beach. You know, I think if people, a lot of people, and quite understandably, when they come to Normandy, they think that they're going to go to something resembling a small beach resort, a small cove or something like that. But Omaha is the biggest of the 5 beaches, but the others are still at the same scale. And this is 4 miles of sand. You can't close it all off.
And we've gone over halfway now, Patrick. I'm not looking at the time, so I'm a little worried about my 66 minutes. But tell you what,
I think we have to deduct 15 minutes maybe for the laying of the shingles at the Braves Monument.
Tell you what, let's live the moment and look at the time later on, right? I did have a question about the link. Susan Markley is asking about where the GoFundMe link is. So Susan, I think Patrick put it up on the We Love Normandy Facebook page, and you should be able to find it on the Next Gen Normandy Facebook page as well. There are a few posts there. If not, go straight to GoFundMe, and you'll find it there as the 44 Challenge campaign for the next greatest generation.
Thank you for that, Susan. And hello, Susan. And I hope you and Pumpkin the Beagle are both enjoying the show. Do you? Perhaps you could just check that I put the link at the top of that Facebook post.
Is that on top of the Facebook post? Let me try to go all the way to the top, Patrick.
You need to go back.
Okay.
Press your back button.
All right.
So you just see the post.
Okay, We Love Normandy. Yeah. So the sun is shining, and then.
Let's see.
Further up. Further up.
There we go.
Up. A number of comments there. I don't see it right there, but
we have a technical problem or challenge, as my good friend and neighbour Edward likes to use. There's no such thing as problems, only challenges. We have not got the link to the GoFundMe page. We will add that after we finish the walk. We'll add that, and the recording will be there on Facebook and on the We Love Normandy website, and you'll be able to click on the link and subscribe and donate to that GoFundMe page. If not, how do they find that GoFundMe page? You go to GoFundMe.com, and what would you type in?
Yeah, so it'd be 44 Challenge campaign for the next greatest generation, which is a mouthful, really.
So it's 44 like numbers, two fours.
Correct.
44 Challenge. So if somebody typed in 44 Challenge, it would probably get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you can see the list of my 44 challenges that I'm planning for this year. And I just did recorded another one with another great colleague, Jonathan Dale, Joe Dunn, where we actually spent 44 minutes of silence at different graves at the Bayou War Cemetery. So that will be coming up soon on the Facebook page as well. And you can also follow me visiting 44 Normandy museums this year, World War II Normandy museums. And I'm doing those with my 3 boys. They're 12, 9, and 2, and so the comments about the museum are from them. So you get like an unfiltered, TripAdvisor comment from a 9, 12, and a 2-year-old about what they thought of the museum. So there you go. That's another one that I'm actually currently doing.
Cool. Well, over the sound of the wind noise, I can hear the bird song now to our right. On this, we're coming up to the area where you start to see the trees of the American Normandy Cemetery, or the Normandy American Cemetery. And here you can probably see the bluffs are a little further away from the top of the beach. There's this area that widens out at the LaRue Draw, which was the Germans referred to as the Upper Beach. Did you know that?
I did not know that, Patrick. See?
Yeah. Germans would call it the Upper Beach, and if my German was any good, I'd say it in German. But I think the Allies referred to it as the Shelf, which is a more correct, I suppose, geological term. And it's a kind of a swampy area between this, between the top of the beach here and the bottom of the bluffs. And
Yeah, actually, Tommy Bowles is asking where the 1st Infantry Division came ashore, and we just entered that section of the beach there, Tommy. We're going down Easy Green, Easy Red, then Fox Green, Fox Red. So this is where the 1st Division came ashore.
And many elements of the 29th, the
106th,
and the 116th Regimental Combat Team, who were, I guess, blown off course here.
Yeah, so one of the things that, we talk about people ending up on the wrong spot. There's a variety of reasons, but one of the main reasons definitely had to do with the strong currents here on Omaha Beach. And what's really interesting, people talk about the sandbars, and it's maybe interesting to point out how these sandbars are created, right?
Yeah.
You see the water there in between the sandbars, and a lot of sandbar also basically is caused because of that strong, cross current that cuts those tidal runnels in the beach. And I would have to check my sources, but I remember some of the warships, destroyers out there, had to maneuver like 10 degrees into that current to stay in position.
Basically, the beach and the sand underneath the water is not flat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that comes from that current. And another, thing that you've probably mentioned in your virtual D-Day tours is some of the tanks that swamped, some of those DD tanks. Although there's a whole other story to the tanks, but when they looked at where those tanks were out at sea and how they were positioned at the bottom of the surface, at the bottom of the sea, excuse me, many of them were pointing sideways. They were not pointing with their guns out towards the bluff here, and that also had to do with the fact that they were pushed by the current, which often also ripped the skirts. They were supposed to keep them afloat. So current was a really big problem, and you can imagine, like, early dawn, a lot of smoke, confusion. You're coming out from a long ways, several miles. Not easy to spot the landmarks immediately, and it's a story that very recurrent here in the American sector.
A lot of people think that the tanks, the DD tanks, the duplex drive tanks, basically sank straight off the landing craft, but that's not the case, is it? That some of them got several miles before they sank.
Yeah, I mean,
but they were going almost in the wrong direction because they were being blown off course by the currents and the wind.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Obviously, when you look at the story of what happened to the 741st Tank Battalion and some of their DD tanks, only 3 that actually didn't get off the craft swamp. But that was 2 companies, and there were 3 companies in the battalion. And the 743rd, they had all of their tanks brought ashore.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dean Rockwell and Captain Elder were the ones who made that call, and so there was way more armor on the beach than we think, and we focused, of course, on all those tanks that swamped, which I guess is normal because it's a tragic way to die. Just getting off an LCT and just immediately drop down like a ton of bricks, and many of those men stuck and trapped into their tanks there. But it's a more complicated story than that, right?
Absolutely. Well, look, the reason I've stopped now is as well as being your medical advisor and allowing you to catch your breath, but I thought we may just want to give a mention to Charles Shea, who we're just about to go past here.
One of the medics. Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Charles Shea. All right.
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be rude to go past Charles Shea.
Yeah.
Without saying hello, without recognising him and his monument.
Yeah.
Anybody familiar with the Normandy region may have had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Shea, who's still very much alive and well. Isn't that right?
Yeah. I mean, Charles Shea is very active. He's present at a lot of different ceremonies in all of the different sectors. He's kind of becoming a figure out of his own.
Absolutely.
A U.S. Omaha Beach veteran who actually moved to Normandy, lives here in the Canadian sector, goes to all of the ceremonies. And tell you what, Patrick, I don't know anyone of his rank actually having a statue of himself on the beach.
I do not. Master Sergeant?
Wow, yeah. And I mean, I think as time goes on, we're holding on to these veterans more and more, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a result of it.
But he fought not only in the first wave with the 16th Regimental Combat Team right here on Omaha Beach and was saving people's lives right here, but he then went on to fight throughout the Battle of Normandy. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge, as I understand it, the Hurtgen Forest,
right,
and through into Germany. And not only that, he served in the Korean War. So he's a living legend, and I guess deserves his statue there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Charles definitely isn't an exception. There were many men who
absolutely
like he did, and I guess the fact that he has a statue here really has to do with the whole story that there are so few veterans left. And I think for him to actually live here, people are just so happy to see a living Omaha Beach veteran. And to get to meet him, and so I think that's what he gave him that status. And I do want to mention that doesn't just detract from all of the other veterans and all of the others who served here and maybe don't get the attention like Charles Shea does. And I think Charles Shea's intent is also to draw attention to all those who are no longer here to be able to tell their story.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely
it's keeping the memory alive for those of us who weren't here at the time.
Right. Yeah.
Flip over here. Charles Shea's statue there. When I take people to the Combat Medics monument up at Strongpoint 62 there, which we will reach in hopefully 5 or 10 minutes. There, of course, you have the Ray Lambert monument, and that great concrete rock that the Combat Medics, or Ray Lambert in particular, used as cover to lay out the injured troops prior to evacuation. Now, Mr. Lambert sadly passed away last April,
recently,
coming up to about a year. I think it's about the same time as Prince Philip passed away. And his name is on the monument, but also the name of Charles Shea is written on the monument. And one day I took a family with a couple of teenage kids, and I was telling them the story about Ray Lambert, which I suggest you watch as well. You can watch that on YouTube, the Ray Lambert story. It's a fascinating and very moving account of Ray's actions on D-Day and injuries. And when I told the kids that Charles Shea was still alive, I don't think they believed me. But sometimes can be a bit difficult getting teenage kids engaged. Although I have to say, 90% of the visitors that I have, certainly, that the children are very interested in the stories. Then we climbed up the bluffs from the Combat Medics monument, and we went to the cemetery and we attended the flag ceremony at 5 p.m. And who should be there?
All right. Yeah, that was probably the highlight of their day. Huh?
Charles Shea was there. So I said to these kids, look, not only I know you didn't believe me that somebody on a monument could still be alive, because that's like ancient history. There he is, and they got a chance to see him and listen to him speak at the. So for things like that, it's.
Gosh, Patrick, wouldn't we want to turn back time like 20, 30 years ago and do our tours with a World War II vet for all the kids and families that we have on our tour? That would have been amazing. But we've had that
every day I wake up, I wish I could turn back time 20 or 30 years.
Well, let's see how well, they're right over there.
Geert's going to get his feet wet here. Let's see if we can. Okay, here we go. So, we're getting into some shingle here, Geert.
Yep. And actually, there was an earlier question. It was Melissa Stetzer was asking about if there's still artifacts being found to this day in Omaha Beach or elsewhere. And she was there in Pegasus Bridge in 2014, and the museum they had a Panzerfaust that they found just the year earlier. And actually, Patrick and I have been having some exchanges because. Well, yesterday I got word that they found a 270 millimeter, which is like a 10-inch naval shell at the base of the cliff of the village where I live. So next week I'm going to have to evacuate my family and 300 other villagers with me.
So that was my question. I know it's just like a square mile, the exclusion zone that they need prior to neutralizing. What's the correct term?
Yeah, they're going to blow it up.
Yeah, they're going to blow it up.
Yeah,
so that includes your house as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so I got some great tips from fellow guides. You know, close your shutters, but leave your windows open if you want to keep them. So.
Wow. And so that's for viewers at home. That's at Long-sur-Mer, and what are we talking about? 10 miles from here?
Yeah, just down the coast. You can see the semaphore along there.
It may not be that easy to see on the Facebook screen, but Long-sur-Mer is to the east, just round the corner from the end of the cliffs there. You might just be able to make out the Mulberry, some of the remains of the Mulberry Harbour there, and Long-sur-Mer just between here and there. So do we have a special guest here?
We do have a special guest.
Yeah,
Patrick. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think we're a little bit over time, but I'm glad he waited for us.
Well, he can give us a time check.
John, good to see you. Good to see you. Fist bumps, I guess, nowadays, right? Yeah, right. So John came all the way from
Hi,
Utah.
John. I'm Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
Thank you for coming all this way.
Right, John? Yes. And it's not the first time for John in Normandy. John has been here a couple times, right, John? Because we also pay tribute to someone you knew very well, right?
You got it.
Tell us a little bit more. Let's walk together then.
Okay.
Go for it. Are these people with you, John? Or are you?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, we got some others, but they're not here
Okay.
at this spot. But Lieutenant Hiram Smith Shumway is my father-in-law.
Wow.
And he's a member of the B Company, 18th Infantry, 18th Regiment of the 1st Infantry, Big Red 1. He landed here on Easy Red on D-Day. And as he was coming up the hill here, he told us the story that he walked between some two taped lines, and he was following in a single file. And he found out the hard way when he bumped into the guy in front of him, and the guy got really mad at him and said, "Come on, Lieutenant, wake up. If you don't, we're all gonna die."
Wow.
But if he was gonna he bumped into the guy who was the engineer at the front with the blade.
He was trying to flip a mine out.
Basically trying to find the mines the less dangerous way. So that was his biggest memory of coming up here.
That could have been the end of it there, right?
Yeah.
John, for
That's right.
really close to that mine blowing up.
Yep.
But you know, Lieutenant Shumway, he survived that Omaha Beach onslaught and then fought his way inland all the way to Comont-Levante, where he got on the 13th of June, and then it was all, you know, holding the line and patrols back and forth, and on one of those patrols on the 23rd of June, if that is the correct date, 1944, something happened, didn't it?
That's right. He was called to lead a night patrol, and it must have been a unique one because it's the only one mentioned by name in the company records as I did the research. But one of they had to go out at the middle of the night, they go over the hedgerows, and the point is to maintain contact with the Germans. And every time they went over a hedgerow, they got machine gun fire from the corners of the hedgerows. They did that 3 times. The 4th time they got flares in addition to the machine gun, so at least they knew where the Germans were. They came back, they did a head count, and they were missing 1 person. And so when we found this out from talking to him and going through the records, we identified the name of that person. His name is Lieutenant Harry Brown. He's still missing today. And the reason I keep coming back here for the last 15 years is we're looking for him.
For the last 17 years, you've been trying to find Lieutenant Brown, who your father-in-law, you know, had on a patrol that day in June. And so, John, tell us how is that going? Because I know you've made several attempts, and you've been out there with a number of teams and ground detector radar and trying to find and locate the remains of Lieutenant Brown. Do you think this trip will be the final one, at least with regards to this story?
Well, you know what? We thought the last one was going to be the final one, but we brought a next generation ground penetrating radar.
All right.
And they found an anomaly in the field that measures 2 meters long, 9/10 of a meter wide, and 3/4 of a meter deep.
Could be a grave, huh?
That's the plan.
Wow.
It matches with the story of the local villagers that he'd been buried basically in a homemade coffin by the villagers, because the Germans had apparently tortured him for a week and dumped him in the field. They turned in a death certificate, but no location on the death certificate. So we're very optimistic that we're going to find them this week.
Well, John, I cross my fingers, and I mean, I've met you a couple of times at the cemetery and when you made those first attempts, and you know, and I had a chance to meet your father-in-law.
Right.
And you know, viewers probably don't know it, but your father-in-law, you know, several weeks later during the Operation Cobra, lost his eyesight when a shell exploded the tank that he was kind of walking behind, and you know, your father-in-law was that. Just an inspirational example of that greatest generation of, you know, I'm not going to stop at that. You know, I have so many more great things to accomplish. And how many children and grandchildren did he eventually?
So he went through 2.5 years of rehab. He married his college sweetheart by proposing to her. They said, if you will drive the car, sort the socks, and read the mail, I will do the rest. and he did, and they had 8 kids. And they got about 40 some odd grandchildren.
Wow.
I married child number 3.
Well, I mean, you know, we've just laid the shingle at the Braves, and you know, there were so many inspiring stories there of families and veterans that I've met, and your father-in-law is definitely one of them. And I think for younger generations to listen to stories like that of Lieutenant Shumway, whatever happens to you in life, you can overcome it, right? You can overcome it, and these are just great inspiring examples for young people today.
Yeah, he takes away a lot of the excuses when he has no eyes, but he still has a productive life of helping other people and supporting his family. So it's really been inspirational to all of us.
Fantastic. John, I'm so happy you're back, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow, because we're going to go to the Cobra Memorial and
good stuff.
Talk some more and eat some more, because that's what we do around here too, right?
We're good at that.
John, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining.
Great to meet you, John.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right, that was fantastic. Wow. Yeah. So many amazing stories, huh, Patrick? You
Absolutely.
know, surviving Omaha Beach, nearly getting blown up by a mine, and then losing your eyesight. And I remember when Mr. Shumway, he actually, before the incident where the German shell hit the tank that he was walking behind, he had just taken his assault vest off because he had to go, you know, for a potty break.
Right.
And he never put it back on, and that was loaded up with grenades and TNT, and you know, he could have just been blown to smithereens, but he survived that and made it his life's work to try and find that lieutenant that went missing on his patrol. So, and that all started here, right here, Easy Red, and we start seeing the shingle bank, as we kind of refer to it, you know, with the dunes.
Let's get a look at that.
Up higher.
Yeah, there we can start to see the shingles and the dunes above. The shingles and the dunes above. So we were talking about stuff on the beach. Round about here, I think there's a big piece of perforated steel plate, PSP, Marston mat. But again, depending upon what the wind's been doing, it can get covered up and then uncovered again. We'll see if we can see that. I know one of the viewers was asking what you find on the beach. When we make it up to Fox Red, I think we might even see some of the steel mesh. I think so, there's still some of that there, buried in the shingles. But luckily for us, who work here on a daily basis, we don't find 10-inch shells, live 10-inch shells on the beach every day, right, Geert?
No. I mean, I tell you what though, if you come here and you go visit some of the museums, some of the stuff that was found over the years is pretty amazing. The Big Red One Assault Museum actually has a whole front ramp of an LCVP that got blown off and then just basically pushed aside, I think, by the engineers, and they pulled that out of the dune.
I know this is not as impressive as that, but there's a bit of Marston mat right here. You go up and
have a look at that.
Have a look at that.
Yeah.
So this stuff was used to build the temporary airfields, but also to give stability on the beach, I guess, for traffic coming off the landing craft, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, like trying to get vehicles up and over shingle and everything, that's not the easiest.
And there it is, 78 years later. It's kind of like Lego, right? You connect it together, and a couple of days you've got a temporary airfield. Yeah.
The PSP.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the alternative to that was the SMT, the square mesh tracking, which just kind of came up in rolls, and they kind of just unroll that. Yeah.
So, any more questions or query. By the way, we should say for those people who've perhaps only just tuned in, this is virtual D-Day from We Love Normandy, and we're here specifically or specially today with Geert van der Bogaert, who is raising some sponsorship money for the next generation greatest.
Next Gen Normandy.
Next Gen Normandy.
Trying to get young people to come here and learn the valuable lessons of, courage and purpose and service and gratitude that the World War II generation was so renowned for. And I like to point out that nobody called them the greatest generation until Tom Brokaw did that 50 years later. So for all young people who are despairing about, the future and not knowing what difference they can make in the world, do it now. Don't think about, your status or how people look at you now. You got to be at it now, and one day, hopefully for you, and I'm definitely hoping that you can find inspiration here. You'll be called the next greatest generation.
Wow, great words of encouragement there, Geert. It looks like we're losing the tide, doesn't it? Looks like it's going further out.
I thought it was coming in, Patrick, but
well, maybe it's like you say. Some sections of the beach, especially at the ends, like at Vierville, it looked a lot closer, but I think that's due to the steepness of the shore there.
But by 6 o'clock tonight, it should be all the way up to the dune here. That's when we're going to have high tide again.
But it's a particularly low coefficient at the moment. I saw on the tide website this morning. So it doesn't come in and out that much because certain times of year, depending on the tides, the spring, whether it's a spring tide, a neap tide, the tide's coming right up here, right up onto the dunes, right?
Yeah. And it was 1 foot every 10 minutes on D-Day.
Yeah.
So, think about coming ashore 300 yards out and getting hit. That tide came in very fast, sometimes faster than a badly wounded man could crawl without anyone being able to help him. So it's kind of a tragedy of those who were not killed immediately or washed back out to sea.
So we're just coming to a place that's very close to your heart, because you worked there for several years, the Normandy American Cemetery. I don't know, maybe I can zoom in there and give people because we're not going to get a chance to actually go visit the cemetery today. But up there on the top of the bluffs.
See the overlook there?
Yeah, you can see the overlook. Not possible anymore, sadly, to walk to that position from here, which it was up until a few years ago. But you can still walk up to the cemetery via Strongpoint 62. It's just a couple of hundred yards east of the cemetery.
Right. Yeah, and then come in through the main entrance. Yeah. But, as we pointed out earlier, Cota's Draw as being one of those important, paths up the bluff where basically the things changed on Omaha. Same thing obviously can be told here, the path that leads up to the cemetery, and maybe some of your viewers are familiar with Lieutenant John Spaulding and Captain Joe Dawson, that you probably mentioned. So this was one of those areas where, again, there were no immediate strong points up above. They were further east and way down further west, and so there was some cover, although there was enemy fire crossing the beach. Lieutenant Spaulding's platoon did manage to get up through that minefield up to the top and be another one of those important breakthroughs on Omaha Beach. And there wasn't one single one like you maybe see in The Longest Day, right? That didn't happen.
Yeah.
There were multiple different penetrations at different times during the morning. Yeah. Further down, of course, Jimmy Monteith and his Medal of Honor action.
Being the first, arguably the first enemy strong point to have been totally taken?
WN60, yeah. Potentially, of course, then you got the counterattacks and, things are not completely stabilized. But, and at the end of the day, the first, the last, the biggest, the strongest. Yeah.
What does it matter?
If they wouldn't have all happened, at different times during that landing, then nothing would have come together and it wouldn't have been so successful. So it really is a combined effort. And, it's survival instinct, it's sheer bravery, it's training, it's a combination of things that made the difference in different areas at different times.
Absolutely.
Leadership, we'll throw that one in there too.
So there you can see a sandbar very clearly, very dark against the light of the sea, of the water.
And it explains why sometimes when you see pictures of GIs in the water coming off their landing craft, that the guys in the front seem to be deeper in the water,
Yeah.
which doesn't really make any sense, right? If you think you're getting closer to shore, but
Yeah.
that's those sandbars, you know.
Depending upon where you jump in,
Mhm.
you could be in 4 feet of water or 6 feet of
Right.
water, and that can make a big difference. To
Looking
your-
at you
your
and
survival.
me, depending on how tall you are as well, it makes a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So
So
yeah.
we can just start to see some of the bunkers of Strongpoint 62. 75mm bunker there, looks pretty clear in the sunlight. And the 5th Engineer Special Brigade monument on the top of the rise. If I zoom in, people might be able to see that a bit clearer. There we go. Looks like quite a few people up there today as well.
Yeah, sun is out, people are back.
Yeah.
It's the weekend. I've heard some English, I've heard some French, I've heard some Dutch. So it's really great to see people coming up from all over again, and it's great to see people still tuning in. Murray, great to see that you're there as well. Murray's dad served in the 30th Division, and he had quite a day here as well in Normandy. A lot of fun and emotional moments as well there. Thank you for donating. There's some people pointing out that they've donated. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for putting out the link again earlier. I saw that some of you were kind enough to go back to the link and put that into the comments, so that's very kind. And we're getting closer to the end there now, Patrick. We're going
Absolutely.
below easy, or W62 here, easy red.
Yep. I guess it's for me to thank people for putting a link on the on the comments in the Facebook page, because clearly it was me that forgot to put it on the post. So I have a few people to thank as well. Certainly my Zoom platooners, some of my subscribers, Anne Marie. I've got to say hello to these guys, so I know they'll be watching. Anne Marie, Ben, Sue, Jacqueline, Barb, Laurie, Susan, Peter, Lisa, Vicky, I'll see you soon, and Sue. And I hope you found the link. Oh, sorry, Susan as well. I hope you found the link to the GoFundMe page for Geert's Next Gen Normandy.
Patrick, I've just some great news. Nigel Stewart just joined us, the author of Normandy War Cemeteries, online, not here. You
Oh, right,
out, yeah.
okay.
So Nigel
Hi,
said
Nigel.
hi, and listen to this. Nigel is offering 3 more copies of his newest book, Normandy Ghosts. Those wartime pictures superimposed with the current day photos. So there'll be not 3 books that will be prizes tonight during the Zoom platoon, but there'll be 6 because Nigel is donating them, and I think he's going to sign them as well for the lucky winners. So we'll have 6 books, 3 Normandy War Cemeteries and 3 of Nigel's latest book, Normandy Ghosts. Nigel and Sean Claxton, my good friend, who provided the words and the text for the book, and Nigel's beautiful photography there. So
Excellent.
Nigel, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel, and hi, and thank you, Sean, and hi to you too. So we're just coming up to the Combat Medics Monument. Do we have any other questions at this stage? I'm sure people will want to have a quick look at the Combat Medics Monument before we move on, and give you a chance to catch your breath. You're looking pretty good actually.
Just talking away, and I don't feel the weight anymore, so that's good. Probably, I'll tell you what though, I think we passed the 66 minutes by quite a bit. So I'm very grateful so many people are still with us.
Okay, well let's recap on that. Geert is suggesting that we have passed the 66 minute and therefore we have not met the challenge, but I think we still have to deduct at least 15 minutes for the little ceremony that we did at the Braves Monument. And what time do we have now?
I don't even look at the time.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
we'll find out.
That'll be a
time when we get
surprise.
there,
That'll be a
right?
surprise to us.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I'm going to talk a couple of minutes here about the Combat Medics Monument, commemorating the actions of the combat medics of the 16th Regimental Combat Team here on the morning of D-Day. And because of the water here, I can't get much closer than that. But there you have Staff Sergeant Ray Lambert's name on the plaque. We talked about him and Charles Shea a few moments ago. And I don't know, what I need to do, Geert, is get a picture of this with you in it as well, so that people at home can see how small this rock is here. Why don't we?
I thought you were going to say how small I am.
No, and I don't want you to go through the water, that's all right, but you come here so we can show people back at home just how small this piece of concrete is, give you a sense of scale. I always say it's around about 6 feet tall, but I'm not sure, maybe 6 feet tall and 10 feet wide. And that's the only bit of cover, along with a smaller rock a little bit further on, that Ray Lambert could use and lay out the wounded in the shadow, if you like, of that rock from the machine gun fire coming from Strongpoint 62, which is right ahead there. And you can just about see that funny little tree. One of these days I'm going to work out what species of tree that is there, but everybody knows it. And just to the left of the tree you have the forward observation post of Heinz Cervello's CO, and just to the left of that little bunker, you can see that's where the so-called Beast of Omaha was firing his MG-42, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is interesting because it's kind of one of, like we talked about the breakwaters earlier, we talked about the PSV, and this is one of some of those remnants on Omaha Beach that were actually there.
Echoes of the past.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, of course, part of something bigger. It was a stone crusher, really. You see the pebbles that were used in the.
Cervello calls it the rock mill or something.
Right. So there was a steel structure on top of this, right?
But not on D-Day.
Not on D-Day. No, when they used it, obviously. And so it did provide some cover when it was still here. And Saverlo talks about seeing men hide there, and actually when he shifts to firing his carabine. He mentions firing and seeing one of the American soldiers drop his chin on his chest and drop, and realizing that he's been killing people all along. So it's one of those tangible reminders of courage, loss, death, sacrifice, and it's one of the few memorials. And you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, and there may be some other colleagues.
Are these members of your fan club here? Good.
But in any case, to have actually a memorial like that on the beach, like the Braves, there aren't many. If you look at all of the beaches, they'll be on the dunes or they'll be really on the seawall. But to have them actually right where these men landed on the beach is kind of unique.
Absolutely.
The only other one
we should probably press on.
Yeah. The only other one that's another poignant one I know of is the plaque and memorial that was placed on the shipwreck of the SS Leopoldville, that troop transport ship.
I've never seen that. So where is the plaque?
That's 5 kilometers out Cherbourg on the bottom of the channel.
Okay, so it's not even on a buoy.
It's right on the side of the hull of the ship. They went down there and actually placed the memorial there to those men who were on that ship and drowned on that ship. So they even have underwater memorials here in Normandy, believe it or not.
Wow. So that for the people who don't know the story, that's the Leopoldville. The Leopoldville is bringing soldiers to Cherbourg, the port of Cherbourg, on the 31st of December 1944.
Yeah, it was Christmas Eve actually, Patrick. It was the 24th.
Sorry, the 24th. I'm thinking New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and it got torpedoed by a submarine, and the tragedy was that the ship didn't sink immediately. Some of the accounts talk about how the men knew the ship had been hit, and they're kind of waiting for like tugs to pull it into Cherbourg Harbor. They could see the lights out in the harbor, and there are even accounts of Christmas carols that are being sung. But the rescue party didn't come out fast enough. It was Christmas Eve, right? And so the ship sank, and a lot of men died of hypothermia out there in the water, rather than from the immediate impact of the torpedo, which did kill a number of people or soldiers in the troop compartment. But
you used to work at the cemetery. I always forget the facts and figures, but somewhere around 700 men died.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the figures at the cemetery don't give the exact number because some of the men who were found were also repatriated. But there are over 400 on our wall of the missing. So a third of the names on that wall of people who were never found are men who were on that transport ship and who rest out there at sea with another close to 1,000 soldiers who landed on D-Day or later, or were in tanks that blew up and planes that crashed and remains that were not recovered, or like John was saying earlier, men that went missing on a patrol were killed in no identified grave and never found again. Right?
I had the privilege of touring with a lady whose father was on that ship, and she had no idea of the story. Can you believe that? Yeah. We did the tour. We ended up at the cemetery. We went to the Garden of the Missing. We looked at the Wall of the Missing. The one thing that strikes you straight away is how many soldiers were in that regiment. The 200 and and she said, "Oh, that's my father's regiment." And I said, "Well, you told me your father. Well, clearly your father survived because the lady was not in her 80s." And she said, I'd never heard that story. Her father had never spoken of it.
Well, yeah, of course, at the time, the Leopoldville disaster wasn't something that was in all of the papers. There's a lot of talk about whether it was deliberately kept secret, and I don't believe that was the case, but it was one of those things that happened. It happened at a time when there's still, activity of German submarines, so you wouldn't start, throwing credit or, just showing how successful the Germans were. So, but yeah,
over the decades that followed, it's amazing that she did not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it is true that after the war,
some people just didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about it.
But I think our point being that when you come here, you see the bunkers, you see the shingle, you see the obstacles, and then you have the channel, and all of the stories that are out there are just amazing as well. And one of the interesting museums here in Normandy is the DDR Rex Museum, where they've actually pulled some of the armor and equipment from the bottom of the channel. So not always open, but interesting to see.
This is at Port-en-Bessin at Com.
That's correct. Yeah. So you can still, even if you can't get in, you can still see some of that.
And then when you're done at the museum, you can go to La Chenevière.
Yeah, very nice.
And have a fantastic lunch.
Exactly. Yeah.
With our very good friends.
Some more thank yous from Mary, Nigel, and Joanne. Thank you all for those very kind comments. Thank you all for watching. We're nearly getting to our end. We're nearly at that other bunker that housed an 88mm anti-tank gun in Omaha Beach, WN61. And so for those brave viewers who are still watching after, I don't know how long we've been doing it.
My body clock's telling me an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, okay. Well, we're getting close, and you'll get to see me run up that shingle at WN61 as kind of the grand finale. And I feel pretty fit, Patrick. I actually, when I attempted it the first time with my 3-year-old on my back, it felt a lot longer. But
yeah, you're smiling. You're smiling through the tears. How are your bunions?
So yeah, fantastic. Patrick, we were talking about how many times have there been any virtual tours where you go from one end to the other end of Omaha?
This is the first time I've ever walked from one end to the other,
there you go.
regardless of whether I'm filming it or not. So it's been a great privilege and a great opportunity for the viewers to kind of see the extent of Omaha Beach. Mm-hmm. As I say, it's difficult to get across the size of this area on the small screen. Mm-hmm. But if you've been with us for the past hour or so, thank you very much indeed for following us, and I'm hoping that gave you some indication of the scale of this. Let's look behind us now, Geert. You can see where we've come from, all the way back there at the Vierville draw towards the cliffs there in Charlie sector.
We'll have to go back to the footage, Patrick. I was just told it's an hour and 45 minutes, so we'll have to see where we need to
okay.
cut out. But
maybe we're going to have to cut out at half an hour for the ceremony.
Right. I'll tell you what, the viewers can decide whether I accomplished the challenge or not, even if we went a little over time.
I think the problem is when you tested this, you did it on your own.
That's right.
And then when you did it with me, I'm distracting you and talking to you, and we're putting way more effort in talking. We're using our jaw muscles more than our leg muscles, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Patrick, you're being very, very courageous there. You're just throwing yourself on the barbed wire just for me. I mean, thank you for that.
So we're just coming into, I guess, Fox Red.
Yeah.
Right up ahead there, you can see the cliffs that really, I suppose, the demarcation line of the Fox Red sector. From there all the way through till Arromanches, there's not really any suitable landing beach area. There's the port of Port-en-Bessin, and otherwise it's cliffs. And we certainly have plenty of shingles here, Geert.
Yeah, more and more. Actually behind us, just as we walk past the sailing club, that's where I got most of the shingle for today's commemorative shingle for people who watched. And it just kind of piles up in this area, and that's where I'm going to try and run up.
People were asking about the what was at the top of Omaha Beach. You did have, back in June 44, some rudimentary seawall, some concrete, some wood, I'm given to believe. But you also had these shingles and the dunes and the cliffs, I guess, as well, if you want to include those features of the beach. But the shingles, this is what we're looking at now.
And we see the bunker just behind that. Okay.
And behind the what do you call that? static caravan in British English, a trailer in American English. Yeah, a very attractive pale green colour it is too.
Patrick, let's do it.
Hold on a minute, let me just make sure I have you in frame here, Geert. So this marks the end of your 4-mile walk with 44 pounds of Omaha Beach, and we're going to run up the shingle in the footsteps of the brave soldiers of the 1st Infantry Division who landed here 78 years ago.
Thank you, everyone.
What's it like up there, Geert? Are you getting altitude sickness?
We're good. Happy to be here. Thank you very much, Patrick.
You've done a great job. Let me follow you up there now. So we are at the end of our little trip, our little walk on Omaha Beach. We're not going to stop the broadcast just yet. Don't often get a chance to come this far up the beach, but let's give you a view of the beach from here. So we did not get quite as far as the F1 draw, which is about what did we say, about 100 yards, 150 yards in front of us here. That goes up to Strongpoint 60. But that, you can see in the end there, is the end of Omaha Beach, is it not, Geert?
It is. Look at how beautiful, Patrick. You know, thinking about all the horrible things that happened here, but you know, it's a beautiful day. Look at those clouds only in Normandy. You get a sky like that. And the Omaha Beach definitely deserves its nickname of Golden Beach today, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and not forgetting the other moniker that it received after the war, that of Bloody Omaha.
Yeah, which is obviously, you know, adds a lot of what the drama of what happened here. Although you pointed out that it was one that was used later after the events.
Absolutely. Well, I think I'm going to leave. Let's flick the camera around here. We will leave the search for some of the steel mesh that you can still find embedded in the shingles here. We'll leave that for another day, I think. And because I don't know about you, Geert, but I'm in the mood for a cold beer now. Or at
It's
least,
about that time, yeah.
or at least a cold water. Do we have any final? Let's just amble back toward
I
the.
got a lot of bravos, a lot of thumbs up. I think people are telling us that they think we've accomplished the challenge. I got Herb Miller talks about his powerful visit in 1999, where his father came ashore at Utah Beach. Hank telling us he'd never been this far out to the beach. I'm glad you got to see this section of Omaha as well, Hank.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to see the whole length of the beach.
Lee, thank you for your support. See you there too. Thank you for.
Is that Lee Ramsey?
It is Lee Ramsey.
Oh,
yeah.
hi there, Lee. Thank you for joining us, and thank you very much indeed, on behalf of Geert, for your contribution. It did not go unnoticed.
All right, so
I suppose I have one or two people to thank as well before we sign off. And as you guys are thanking us, I'd just like to say thank you to Alexandria, Barbara, Jan, Jennifer, Mike and Ruth for your contributions as well. So that, again, did not go unnoticed. Thank you very much indeed for your contributions to the We Love Normandy programme. Okay, well.
Fantastic.
Did you ever do any of the sand surfing here, Geert?
I haven't, no. I actually have family groups that do it. It gives the kids a nice break from some of the World War II stuff as
Yeah,
well.
it's worthwhile saying to people there's lots more to
Absolutely,
Normandy than
absolutely.
just the D-Day history.
Absolutely,
And if you're
yeah.
coming for a family vacation, a family holiday,
Yeah.
there are 101 things to do within the D-Day area.
Probably,
Well,
just wanted to add, you're probably the best, person in the hospitality industry in Normandy. They give some good tips there too.
well, and I'm not sure about that, but if you're interested, do check out my website, welovenormandy.com. Do consider subscribing to Virtual D-Day. I'm going to keep doing these virtual tours, even though I've got a pretty packed schedule this summer with doing real tours, thankfully. But we'll continue to do broadcasts throughout the year. And again, do check out Geert's Facebook page, which is
Next Gen Normandy, and there'll be more challenges to come this year if you want to follow some. And I think we're going to talk to some people tonight as well, Patrick.
absolutely.
Zoom platoon, right?
And the Zoom platoon is tonight at 6:30 Paris time. I'll let you work out what that is in your local time, but I think we're 6 hours ahead of the east coast of the United States, so 6:30 Paris time should be 12:30 in New York, for example, but I'm not going to work out the other time zones. And that'll be starting, at 6:30. And the link to Geert's GoFundMe page is on your Next Gen Normandy Facebook page. And I'll also put that on the We Love Normandy page as well after this broadcast. So from me, Patrick Hilyer.
Geert from the Bogaert. You get the Flemish version there.
It's been great. It's been great walking with you, Geert, and it's been great with your comments and questions from all of you guys watching. So thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.